Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kristen Dorr. I'm the moderator for Integro webinars. If you're new here, Integro does monthly webinars. They're 30 minutes long, really quick and easy. We hope they add a lot of value to your Thursday afternoon. Today, Scott Burt's going to be presenting on tackling terabytes, minimize risk and cost with Fileshare cleanup. This is completely new content for you guys. He's worked quite tirelessly to gather it for you, and I know he's excited to talk to you about Fileshare cleanup. But before I let him, start talking, let me just go over a few quick housekeeping notes. First, feel free to maximize your screen in the upper right-hand corner. Second, if you have any questions at any time, you can ask them in the sidebar, and we will answer all of those at the end. And third, at the very end of this webinar, when you close out, there will be a very brief survey. It's one question. If you can answer that, we really, really appreciate it. So I will hand it on over to Scott.
All right, Kristen, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Awesome. So I will go ahead and share a video camera just for a moment here so I can say hi to everybody in the audience here. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it very much. And I don't know if I've been working quite tirelessly, but we have been working on this, and we're excited to present this offering here. This is something we've been doing for some time, helping clients with Fileshare cleanup. But this is a bit of a new approach, doing a full service offering. So thanks for joining, and I look forward to taking you through this process. So that's probably enough camera. I'm going to turn that off there, and off we go. So you are on this call for a reason. You decided that there was you have too much data, right? You know that you've probably been through an eDiscovery event and it was a nightmare, or maybe an audit from the board of directors on down to make sure that we don't have sensitive data lying around. Maybe you're paying too much for storage. We've got clients in the multi-millions of dollars of file server storage. People say storage is cheap, but buying a hard drive at Best Buy and buying enterprise storage and then managing all the obligations on all that data that you store are two vastly different things. So you're here because you have a lot of data and in your file shares, and somewhere along the way you've made the determination to clean that up, and you also then figured out, holy cow, this is not as easy as one might think. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the goals of why you would want to do this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time building the business case because, again, I'm assuming you already know that. The Integro solution, value, and methodology, our approach for this solution, and this is a full service offering that we're talking about here, not just us talking about, hey, here's a software, buy this software, we'll install it and teach you how to use it. You know, the old proverbial sell you a fishing pole and I'll teach you how to fish. It's a lot more along the lines of we're going to come in and do the fishing for you and cook it up as well. So that is the approach, the model, and it has been getting very positive reviews from our clients. We do have two different options that we'll talk about. One takes you through pretty solid cleanup, maybe up to 30% of the data, heavily based on metadata, age, file type, etc., and also audits cleanup for personally identifiable information, credit card information, and the like. And the next one is full service, and that goes a lot deeper into the content that is hard to tell the difference based on metadata alone. You need to look at the content and to identify what are records, transient, etc., in order to do the cleanup. So we're going to take you through those two options, and then we'll just kind of review. Fileshare cleanup goals. So chances are some of these, if not all of them, ring the bells for why you are on this webinar or watching this video. And Kristen, as a reminder to record this thing. And there may be some that are missing here. You might want to increase findability and things like that as well. But heavily, customers are worried about information security. They've seen Sony have their unstructured data on file servers published on WikiLeaks. They've had the audit committees come down and say, you need to audit hundreds of terabytes of data and make sure it's clean. You know that you have a vast majority of your content, likely 70% of your file server data is rot, redundant, outdated, trivial. You're tired of always buying new servers to store stuff you don't need to be saving. You need more agility in your business, IT. Maybe you want to move to the cloud. You're going to get off of file servers. You're going to Office 365 and OneDrive, all those cool things, and you're like, well, what do we do with this old stuff? It would really be a shame to move old clutter to the new system. And then you probably have stuff that's valuable, records, etc., intellectual property that you want to get control of. You might have other reasons, but they probably complement and will be resolved in this process. Well, chances are, as you have looked at solving this problem, you have identified that, wow, we don't have enough people. We don't have the right people. Nobody in our team has done this before, and we don't even really know the questions to ask, much less the experience of just how to do it. You probably, surely, don't have a process, because this is probably a new thing for you. You're probably an over-retainer, a hoarder, as it is now, as a corporate culture, and this is a new thing to actually come in and clean up and dispose of content. So likely you don't have the methodologies and the processes, and you understand the implications and challenges there. And then lastly, you're looking at it going, holy cow, this is a lot of content. And I just can't ask my users to stop making widgets and selling the widgets that you're in business to do, but instead go through and clean up millions of files. It's just not going to work. So we address all these problems for you. We bring the bandwidth, we bring this deep expertise and skills, we bring the methodologies, and we bring the software to help automate and streamline this process so that it's no longer insurmountable. The process really starts with this globe is a metaphor here for the layers here, those layers of the onion, a metaphor for your data. And let's just use a round number of 100 terabytes. You've got 100 terabytes of file server data, and you want to do the full cleanup option. By the way, we have other sizes as options, and we have the metadata and policy audit only. But we want to start off and we do a very fast index of the metadata. That's the size, the file type, the location, owner, the created date, modified date, and last accessed date. And we're going to, and the title of the content, the title of the file, the name of the file. And we're going to do this, like I say, very rapidly, 100 terabytes, and then based upon the metadata alone and the policies that we have already brought to the table and you and your committee and team have validated, we're going to then be able to take action on 20%. Our really goal is up to 30% of that content and remove it. That would get you down to 70 terabytes. If you started with 100, our goal is to get down to 70 or up to that amount of time, savings. And some of that might come from ROT, redundant, outdated, trivial content. Some of it will be from records, where we're going to identify that some of these things are obviously things of value, and we might want to move them to a system of record where they're under better control than just in the file server. So then we've got a smaller body of content. Now we're going to full text index that content, all of the content, the Word documents, the PowerPoints, Excel, you name it, including files that are zipped within zips instead of zip files, and so multiple layers deep, and almost all the file types that you've got out there, we're going to full text index that content. Takes a bit longer, but then once we've got that done, now it really opens up a wealth of opportunity that we can use to clean up that data, such as, in the first step there, is that policy heat map and remediate those policy violations. So a policy heat map, credit card information, PII, Social Security information, etc. Those kinds of things that follow a pattern, and we can do a few custom ones for you as well. So if you're an insurance company, you might have a policy number, you might have an employee ID number, things like that that you might have a policy that at your company that no client insurance policy information should be on the file server. It should only be in your more secured enterprise content management system. And by looking for your policy number or claim number, that format, we can find where all that stuff is out there and help clean it up. So that is our one of our options. Takes you to that level, very fast hitting, and a high value solution. The next, going deeper, is just that. Now we're down, we've gotten rid of the easy stuff, we've cleaned up the easy stuff. Now you've got millions of Word, PDF, PowerPoint, and you need to now look at the content to do a deeper dive analysis to even further reduce that volume of content. And when we say reduce it, some of it's getting disposed, some of it's getting moved, some of it's getting put under records control or something where it's secured that you want to protect your intellectual property. We do this in a variety of ways through robust Boolean logic, where based upon its location and owner and file type, we can say with these words and not these words and things like that. We can do a lot of analysis to sort out the content with first level sorting, I guess you might say, a lot of times, using that logic. Then we go deeper, and we can actually take sample content and take and train the software to then identify other documents that look similar, not based on keywords, but actually based on the messaging, the conversation, the context in the documents, to auto-classify maybe to a records category. So you might have a file plan with records categories, and all those records categories need to be in your records system. We can take sample content, train the system, and it will identify those records, and then we can move that content over to your record system. This slide here somewhat restates what I just said. You know, we're focused heavily on file servers, whichever icon you want to say represents file servers. The tools we're using can go across a lot of other content. So you might say, Scott, that's great, but we not only have file servers, we have SharePoint, we have Documentum, we have Exchange, things like that. Okay, fine, but you know, we've come up with a very repeatable fixed price offering that we know how long things are going to take and how long it's going to take us to index it and for processing, etc. So those might adjust and become custom quoted, but off the shelf, we've got a very repeatable solution looking at file servers. We then do that processing, looking for that rot data, a lot of times off of that metadata. Then we're looking at the regulated data, looking at pattern matching heavily and other keywords that we're looking for. And then that high business value data, again now using Boolean and other rules, as well as that auto classification using machine learning. So technology assisted classification, if you're from a legal background, it's very similar. What you do then, you might do any number of these things. Secure the content, remediate it. You know, it really gets down to delete or move it to a safe location, etc. And by the way, when I say delete, please note that we don't plan to come in and delete your content, but what we do plan to do is have you provide a temporary storage area for a quarantine. We would move content to be disposed into a quarantine, and the users would no longer have access to it. It might then sit there for X amount of months before your team finally says, okay, nobody's complained or screamed and we feel good about what's been done. We've reviewed it even further. I did some other spot checks to validate it. Let's go ahead and dispose of that content out of the quarantine. That can be your task after we've left. But we're not going to delete it. We're going to move to quarantine. Then on the other side, on the securing it, oftentimes securing it means moving that content to either a system of record or some kind of a system where you want to keep your intellectual property, your contracts, things like that, so that they're better controlled. All right. An example, we use a few tools. This is one of the tools that we use here, and it gives us a lot of capabilities. And let me, I just want to do this, so let's just draw a little bit. So in this case here, we're looking at 5.6 million items 5.6, is that right? 5.6 billion items, if I do the math right. And this is the all objects info set, which you can see here, that's that all info set. And we're looking by source type. So what that means is Exchange, SharePoint, the Centera device, file servers there. And right now we're looking at the category view. So, you know, show us the images, okay? There's the images that are in Exchange in this data set. Here's the images that are in SharePoint in that data set, etc. Now, if we go and show one other thing, we could say, show me the stuff by when was the last time somebody went and looked at it. And note one of those options, over 7 years. So here's the, in this case, email on Exchange that hasn't been accessed in 7 years, SharePoint, etc. Now, that gives us a lot of capabilities, right? If it's fresh content, we're not going to go in there and quarantine it, you know, delete it. But if this older content, it's outside your policy areas, we very well may be able to bring our policy recommendations to your team, have those approved, and then we can take action on that kind of content. You know, maybe you don't need on your file share for the sales department content over 5 years old, things like that. Looking back here at the previous slide here, it also tells us about the content. So in this case, we're looking at SharePoint, and strikingly, gee, there's a lot of email on SharePoint. Isn't that interesting? What you find can sometimes surprise people, but that's not a big surprise to find email not in the email system. So I don't know if you could tell there, but in this image, email is highlighted, and then here is the details. Here are the types and the quantities of emails on SharePoint. Now in this next one here, where it is selected, you can see the outline here on this one here. It's the old email on Exchange, and it's telling us basically on what server is that coming from. So there's a variety of kinds of information you can get. Now number 4 down here, select a data overlay. We're going to go ahead and set that for, say, credit cards. All of a sudden it kind of lights up a little bit like a Christmas tree, red and blue instead of red and green, and it tells us where is credit card information located. In this case, there's some in email and on Exchange, and in particular, there's 355 items that are contacts with credit card information, 557 calendar items, 688 task items. Gives you an idea of this dashboard. Gives us this quick sense of where we're going to focus our efforts and drill in and find and clean up, remediate problems. Okay? Starts to give you some idea of the tools we're using and how we can get after it. You know, what we're doing, we're not moving to manage content. You know, historically, you would oftentimes have to move it to index and take action, maybe moving it into an enterprise content management system or things like that. We're doing this in the native location. So in the file servers, we're doing all this filtering and analysis, and then we can take action, dispose, or again, quarantine in place, and we can do that on a variety of rules and logic, reducing your risk and cost. The policy violations, here's a little list of examples of things we can look for and rapidly find it. Now, you might have policies that are HR policy violations, right? Could be discriminatory language. Could be that sending around credit card information when it's against the policy to do that in an unencrypted format. Well, we can also tell you who has that content, and that gives you a training opportunity to know you got to talk to Mr. Symes or Taylor or whomever. Lots of reporting you're going to get out of this. Time check, I'm looking along, we're about 20 after here. Project team. We recommend a leadership committee. Probably already having this in place. If you don't, I recommend it. It really gives you that executive leadership and buy-in and support and help guiding you on where is the board and the executives have identified where the risky areas are, things to work on first, etc. And they're also going to be involved in approving some of the policies that are going to be required for approval. Then you're going to have the core leadership, and that's our team, Integro, Senior Information Governance Program Manager, and your Program Manager. And then we're also going to have some experts from each team to help help them. Then there's technical support, and then you have teams. Now, if you're only doing the policy, the metadata cleanup and the policy cleanup, then the team is this right here. If you go further and do the full cleanup, we add information governance practitioners, 3 headcount that come in here that are experts at records management, auto classification, content classification, and they'll work directly. IGP is that information governance practitioner, and they'll work directly with and interview with, say, your subject matter expert from the HR department on what kind of content you have, what's valuable, where it needs to be, what maps to records categories, acquisitions, where content got put when you did mergers, etc., things like that. We're going to have another person maybe working with the R&D department, looking for that intellectual property. Over here, you've got another person working with the executive team or the sales team, etc. And so they're gonna break off. They're going to work on a logical bite-sized chunk of that 100 terabytes of data and get to know it with your subject matter experts, isolate down the content sets, and then bring up for final approval to take action on the content. The teams then kind of look like this, and bear in mind they're kind of fractions of people, like it's just a fraction of people on your committee here. Probably a half head count for the program management. Technical services on 100 terabyte. We're at a full resource here for Integro, and then just some support from your IT department. And then for the full cleanup offering, full resources here from Integro, and a quarter, a third of the resource we'll need for their interviews and things like that to contribute to the cause. It's not a full-time loss of productivity for them while we're doing this, but they do need to engage. Project plan, a little something like this. Build the project team, kick off. We finalize the policies and procedures, the methodology, but what's going to be acted on, and get some decisions from the executive committee, etc. And then as we go, we'll refine and improve as we go through the process, because we will continue to uncover things that need to be addressed and decisions made on that. Meanwhile, on the technology side, we're going to, you're going to get the hardware. We're going to start the metadata indexing and then the full text indexing. And then team 1, say working on HR, I think it was. Team 2 was working on the R&D department. Team 3 was on the executive team. They do the metadata first, and then they do the full text. And throughout this whole process, we're providing a wealth of reporting and analysis on the benefit derived, how much content we've removed, etc., and what content was, so that you have a strong sense of what's being done. It's being done in a very methodical fashion that would be very legally defensible, and that content then will be saved as records as well for your program. So what do you get? So here's the little list of items, and our first option here, metadata cleanup through policy audit, gets you metadata indexing, identify, categorize, and action, taking action by file type, age, the last accessed information. Then full text indexing helps us get that done, and that helps us with that audit. And then if you do the full cleanup offering, that also gets a much more robust and custom searching around your content, specific for your keywords, etc., and classifying. And on 100 terabytes, we would classify up to 10 categories of content, usually items of value, records, could be other. And then the system, the machine, will go out there and find that content. Our goal, we're going to delete up to 30% here on option 1 and up to 60% of the full cleanup offering. Your mileage will vary, but you've got at least that much rot out there, so it's hopeful between identifying content of value and the rot, we could get up to 60% savings. How long does it take? Well, we break these out into 3 different sized offerings. If you've got 10 terabytes, hey, great, we've got an option for you. For the metadata only cleanup option, 2 months. We can do all that work for you. If you're doing the full cleanup, it's 3 months, and every one of these includes about a month of planning and prep and decision making on your end, ordering hardware, etc. And then the remainder is the hardcore, really doing the work. So on that 10 terabytes, it'd be about a month of prep and about 2 months of indexing and processing and moving and cleaning up, actioning. And we would do up to 3 categories for that 10 terabytes. And then we've got the 40 terabytes. The full cleanup option there takes 4 months total, and we do up to 5 categories. 100 terabytes takes 5 months total from start to finish. This assumes here that you're going to have a decisive leadership team, and you'll be able to make decisions and act on things. If unable, we'll try to isolate out and segment out the data and quarantine it or set it up so that you can take action later. But ideally, our concern is we're going to go faster than you guys, oftentimes, because it sometimes then gets to some paralysis on the decision making, is what we've experienced in the past. Here's what we provide. Here's what you provide. Most of it on the personnel side I've already mentioned here, right? You're going to provide executive support, an information governance leader, program management. These two might be the same person. Subject matter experts, say for HR, executive, administrative assistant, things like that. IT support to help us get proper access and credentials. They'll provide your virtual servers. So VMware, on the small end it'd be 3, on the higher end it'd be like 14, something like that. And you would also provide, decisions, executive kind of leadership. Oh, and I gotta mention there that you would have and provide executive support. It is important. It's hard to do the stuff without those things. We're going to bring also then the software to do this on a term basis in the methodology. Cooking along, end results. You've cleaned up your data. You've remediated the regulated violations, secured sensitive data, and the like. Now, Kristen, did you mention earlier that people can ask questions and how to do that? And hopefully you have, and I see there's a few questions already out there.
We do. We have quite a few questions.
If you haven't already figured that out, like Dean did, go ahead and post your questions, and we'll try to answer a few right now. So, Dean, existing customer, valued friend there, thank you, Dean, for the questions. How many customers have we implemented FileShare cleanup projects with? So that's a good question. Historically, what we've done is we've come in and provide the tools and done this, but it's been at least, it's probably about 12 to 20 clients that we've done some form of doing this, probably closer to 20, where we come in, bring the tools, index the data, show them this reporting of all this content and the violations and things like that. But then usually we've trained clients how to do things, and then we've left, and then they too often sputter along because they don't have the dedicated resources to really get it done. So this is a newer offering, and we've been experimenting with this and doing variations of this, but we're really rolling this out right now, Dean. So to be completely frank here, this is to be doing it in a fully exactly as we've laid out. We're rolling that out right now. We've got a couple clients that are starting here in the coming couple weeks. Can they find duplicates? Yes, we can find duplicates, absolutely. Duplicates are always a challenge because when you go to clean them up, it's easy to find them, but, well, whose do we delete? If 3 people have the same file, do we delete yours, Dean, and let somebody else keep theirs? You just run into that kind of tactical problem. Will it work with Lotus Notes? Yes, on email. I don't remember on custom databases. Oh, you said specific email. Another friend and customer there, Aaron. Thanks for asking. Let's see. What are the prerequisites for starting something like this? Having a retention schedule, file plan, taxonomy. Also, on your tiered package slide, can you classify what a category is referring to? Aaron, good questions. It's sure easier and better if you already have a retention schedule, because then you know the kinds of content that have value in your enterprise. You might already have samples accumulated for each records category, and we probably already know what to do with it. We're going to put it in your record system. It is not a requirement. There are a lot of things that, you know, we can train it to find newsletters. We can train it to find pretty much anything that has any kind of a recurring theme. It might be contracts, it might be types of contracts. You might go to the legal department and say, I want to find all the NDAs, all the business associate agreements, all of the master services agreements, and the whatever. We can not only find them, we can sort them out by type and provide them to you on a platter, and then you know what to do with them. So that's an example where you don't necessarily need a records category. We just need some direction of what content types are going to be the most valuable. Is it cleaning up content that you think is sensitive in a negative way, a negative value, or is it in a positive value? Well, we want to find the intellectual property for product development or things like that. A lot of times for project delivery customers, it's, you know, customer-related data, and they want to get that into a secured customer-related database because they have obligations, right? When they sign up to support a customer like we do for you, you expect us to manage your content well, and newsflash, your outside legal counsel and others don't. And so it's important. We're seeing a lot of law firms right now going after the Mossack Fonseca case in Panama. Holy crap, we better clean up our content because we're over-retaining, and just because we can hide behind some legal arguments, if a hacker gets in or a disgruntled employee steals the data and publishes it, we're exposed. So there you go. Not necessarily records categories there. Any more questions that we can answer? All right, we are at 1:34. I packed a lot in 34 minutes, and I'm sorry for going a little bit long, but that wasn't too bad. And I hope, please answer the question as you exit. If this was a good use of your time, and please reach out to Kristen and or I and share with us further questions or thoughts. Did you think this was good? And are you interested? Are you not interested? Why not? Love to hear from you. Thank you, everybody.